Hey friends, my name's Aaron Ciotti. That's twice in a row that I've cut that off a little bit too early. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to Fixin' Shit Friday night. If you've got broken drones, join me and fix them tonight. I'm going to help you out with troubleshooting, diagnosing, wrong order there, but and repairing. Mainly surrounding tiny whoops, but diagnosing and troubleshooting, and I mean, to some extent, repairing, is kind of all the same, regardless if it's a Cinelifter, 5-inch, 3-inch, tiny whoops, propellers, motors, frame, flight controller, ESC, video system. It's all pretty much the same stuff. How big it is, how powerful it is changes, but yeah, a lot of this stuff is 100% applicable to any FPV rigs. In the chat, Troy Prelog was first, Timmons was next, Doubles FPV, FPV Toast, Curtis Hayes, Anonymous, Crom, Metal Dirtskin, Tane RC, Frank Nicholas, Chris Wells, Jason Crabtree, Douglas 6, Louis the 16th, 17th, damn it, 18th, damn it, Rockcrawler, Levster, Neurone FPV, Curtis Hayes, Chuck P, Northern Tier, Uriel, Levster, Scotty Scott, Almac, LOL the Kittison, Uriel, Kevin Smith, Dave X. Hey, I need to mention this on every single live stream. Patreon changed from only allowing you to sign up as a monthly auto renew to allowing you to just do one single individual month. And unbelievably, if you were already on there monthly, they changed most people over to a single month, which would absolutely explain why my Patreon has taken a complete nosedive over the last like 6 months since they did that. I tagged everyone on Discord last night, and I said, because somebody had mentioned again in the Discord in general, that they don't understand why they can't see the extra text channels in Discord anymore. And so I tagged everyone and I said, yo, here's your reminder. Because I've talked about this a couple times. So yeah, there it is. If you're on Discord and your name is in white, but you're a patron, you're not actually a patron anymore. And so if you want to continue to be on my Patreon, which would be amazing, obviously, get back over there. And I think you're going to have to like re-sign back. I don't know. Go over there and I'm sure you'll figure it out. You guys are brilliant. Preston, so now like a bunch of people are, I think, jumping back on that maybe were on. I'm not totally sure about that though, so you beautiful bastards get shout outs whether you like it or not. Preston Roach, welcome to the Gangly Gang, or welcome back to the Gangly Gang. Bad at Drones, thank you for the support, my friend. And there's an Etsy order. Hey, as a reminder, there's lots and lots and lots of new stuff over on the Etsy store, linked over at CiottiFPV.com. There it is, JMPFPV. Welcome to the Gangly Gang, my friend. Thank you so much for the support. Chris Burge as well. Either welcome back or just straight up welcome. And I think that catches me up. Let me just make sure. Yep, I'm all caught up. Thank you guys so much. It makes a huge difference. The Patreon is the only way that I've been able to do this for this long. I have insane news, but I can't tell you about it. NDAs be like that. But the last 24 hours has been nuts. Yeah, there's something potentially like really, really, really good coming. So, yeah. This place is a little bit of a mess, but it's well worth it. So stay tuned for that. It could be... Yeah. Yeah. If you want to talk directly to me, type CiottiFPV into the chat. If you do that for me, it'll light up an orange since you've typed my name. You guys can do that to each other. If you want to get Crom's attention in your little chat message, just type KRHOM. Put the space. If you're trying to get Troy Prelog's attention, you have to type TROY space PRELOG. You got to spell them right. You got to get the spaces in the right places. And for that person, their name will light up an orange. So if you want to get each other's attention or my attention, just do that. You can certainly also do a super chat. That's amazing. Over on CiottiFPV.com, there's a PayPal button. If you do that to directly support me, make sure that you tag me and say, yo, Ciotti, check your PayPal. Put a funny note in there, and I'll give you your shout out. Well deserved. And read your note, no matter how dirty and horrible it is. There's a limit there, for the record. Curtis Hayes says, I'm getting analog video but no OSD using my TBS Pro 32 VTX. How would you troubleshoot that? Great question. Analog video with no OSD either means that your OSD chip has died. I've had that happen. More than likely, though, you've got the, in the ports tab, you've got it set to tramp when it needs to be... Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's not OSD. In the configuration tab, rather, your OSD has to be turned on there. There's a switch for it. If that's turned on, go down to your OSD tab and take a look at whether it's set to auto, NTSC, PAL, or HD. Usually when this happens, if you're on analog, it's for whatever reason set to HD. I think one of these Betaflight releases, the default was HD, which has screwed a bunch of people up. So yeah, you need to get it either set to auto, or if you know the camera is NTSC, put it there. If you know the camera is PAL, put it there. If it's on PAL, switch it to NTSC. If it's on NTSC, switch it to PAL. Those are the most common things that cause the OSD to not show up. Let me know how that goes. Uriel says, it's going to be mind-blowing, Uriel says. You know what's interesting? Uriel typed his own name. Oh, because I'm not Uriel. I'm dumb. I think he typed his own name so that he could see his own name highlight in orange. Shane and Mindy Hale, FPVRC. What's up, fellas? Not fellas. There's only one fella. Fella and fellaette. So I missed part of what you just said. So we need to re-sign up as patrons. Possibly. Some people have been fine. Just check it. Just log into Patreon. I mean, the one way that you can check it is to go onto my Discord and just type a message into general and look at what color your name is. patrons should have red names. White names over on Discord are not in any of the groups, so they don't have the extra visibility for all the Patreon only text channels in there. So yeah, that's one way you can do it. Or you can just go over to Patreon, and there's got to be a way to look at who you're subscribed to. So yeah, check that. Islander FPV says, I checked your Etsy for the 1.5mm shaft drill bit and only saw bits for 1mm shaft props. Yeah, I ran out of the 1.5s a few months ago. Oddly enough, I actually just did another order for a bunch more of them. So I think it said it'll be here on Monday, maybe Tuesday. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Uriel says, the Divine has seen you work for it. Yeah, I've been very patient. I've been very, very, very patient. Maybe too patient. But if this happens, it will be well worth it. Limits20 says, what's the lightest motors and camera available today? Also, can I use 30 AWG magnet wire on motors? Limits, for the motor wire question, you want to join the Facebook group called, can't think of how else to stall while I search for it because I don't remember the actual name of it. Groups, there we go. Oh man, I thought that would find it. Hold on, let's see. There's a Facebook group for folks that are rewinding tiny whoop motors. Anybody in chat know what the name of the group is? I can't think of what the name of the group is, and Facebook's search is embarrassingly bad. Dude, come on, really? Somebody just joined back into the, just jumps back onto the Patreon. Whoever that was, thank you. My God, am I really just gonna have to sit here and look through my list of groups until I find it? Is this real life? Oh my God. How does nobody in chat know the group? Have none of you guys actually? You should all join this group. If you're hanging around here and you're able to understand the things that I say, you're gonna love what these guys are doing in this group. It's really, really, really cool stuff. There's not, the group is not like, one of the greatest things about the group is that it doesn't get hammered with posts. Spaceman Spiff, thank you, dude. Tiny whoop motor rewinding. Why the hell? I searched for motor and I searched for, I searched for winding, not rewinding. There it is. Whoop micro drone motor rewinding group. It only has 148 members. The posts are all gold though. Like nobody's just posting, ah, look at me fly. The posts are, each individual post is absolute gold. Here comes the link in the chat. There it is. Join that group, guys. There's just super, super, super cool shit going down in that group. That's where that question will be answered for you. Who was that? Was that Limits that asked that question? I think it was, right? Yep. And then Limits, your other question is, what's the lightest motor and camera available today? The lightest camera might be the Tiny Whoop Pinch. Don't quote me on that. All of the cameras with, so like the Runcam Nano 3, of course, is the lightest Tiny Whoop camera we've ever had, but it got discontinued a while back. All of the current cameras have the normal sized lens, and that's where a lot of the weight comes from. So there's actually not that much of a difference. Like if you look at the weight of like the BetaFPV CO3 versus the Tiny Whoop Pinch versus the new FXT camera versus the Newbie Drone BI, the weights are all damn near identical. So yeah, there's not like what you want to look for is a camera that just is a PCB with a lens attached. There's a bunch of cameras that have like housings on them and like the brass threaded bastards. Those are all significantly heavier, but the BI, the tiny whoop pinch, yada yada yada, those are all just PCB lens. That's pretty much it. Those are yeah, there's not much of a difference between those. And then the motors, I mean, it's just 702s, right? And like the Happy Model 702s, in my opinion, are the way to go. They have the most power and they're the most efficient. I think that the BetaFPV motors might be just a little bit lighter weight, but they're so much less efficient that I would not recommend going with those. Kind of a similar situation where like all of the 702s are almost the exact same weight. But yeah, most people are going with the Happy models, although I have seen a bunch of racers go to the RC and Power 702s. I've actually not tried those yet. And that kind of makes me interested in trying them. I think I haven't tried them because they don't have a super high KV, which is fine for racers. They don't usually go above 30,000 KV for like actual racing. I know some of them do have like crazy rigs that are on mega KV motors for qualifying, but yeah, so there you go. Uriel says, no, think deeper. I can't. I'm smooth-brained, you know that. And Yoki says, what's good? Your hair is looking glorious today. Thanks, dude. I just ran my head under the sink. Uriel says, Uriel is my angel on the shoulder. Oh, okay. Daniel 1964 says, hey, I have new 2023. Is that the old school Mobula 6? Mobula 6 AIO build with new 28,500 kV motors. The rig binds and seems fine. However, the motors won't spin. Why? So you said it's a new build. Boy. You might not have a motor protocol set. You got to get the motor protocol set to D-Shot 600 or 300. Not 600, 300. They might not be plugged in. I've absolutely done that before. On fresh builds. Get it into ESC configurator. Make sure it's on BlueJay. Sometimes the AIOs will have like an old ass version of BL Heli on them, which should work, but like if you have RPM filtering turned on and it's an old enough version, it might actually not work. There's 3 things to try. Check those. And then tag me again. Lewis says, Air 75 decent for outdoor. Very decent for outdoor. I did a live stream Monday? I did a couple live streams ago. I talked all about the Air 75. Reviewed it, flew the hell out of it. Yeah, watch that live stream. You'll love it. Getting started with analog after Walksnail. Any other brands? I'm lazy. No, Air 75 is awesome. In terms of just like... Air 75 to me is just like the Air 65. If you want to just buy a bind and fly and just fly it, perfect. If you want to upgrade down the road, I would actually recommend you go with the Mobula 7 ELRS 1S. Mainly because of the motor plugs. The Mobulas have motor plugs, which makes the motor swap so much easier. And just in general, it makes like replacing motors down the road much simpler. But yeah, the Air 65 and the Air 75, like out of the box, awesome. Really, really good. Both of them out of the box are a little bit better than their Mobula counterparts. But their Mobula counterparts are much easier to upgrade, and you can upgrade them to be better. So yeah, it's a bit of a trade-off there. You could absolutely upgrade the Air 65 and the Air 75. You're just going to have to take it all the way apart, desolder the motors, cut the motor plugs off of a perfectly good set of motors, direct solder them on, which is just, I don't know, annoying. That just is super annoying to me. So there you go. Limits20 says, thanks a lot. You're certainly welcome. Levster says, it's the Mobula 6 2024. It happened after I've been flying on a foggy day. Is the sensor broken? Levster, what were we talking about? Where the hell is your previous comment? Why can't I find your previous comment? What's happening? What? I'm not seeing your previous comment for some reason. I can't find your previous comment. Tag me again and let me know what we're talking about. Lewis says also 450 or 300 for 75 millimeter. 450. The 300s won't fit. You need the fat, wide batteries for pretty much all of the 75 mil motor-to-motor rigs. Hang on one second, friends. Okay. Cool. LOL the Kittison says the VCI 0702 I got from you have been awesome. About the same as Happy Model. Weren't those 0703s? Did I have? I did have VCI 702s, didn't I? Yeah, that's right. I had those on the RC car chasing rig. Yeah, they were totally fine. They were completely fine. I did find that they were a little bit less efficient than the Happy Model 702s, but everybody flies differently. It's you know, if you fly around at like a different spot in the throttle, right? Like if I fly around at 31% throttle, but you fly around at 25% throttle, a given motor could be more or less efficient at those different values. Like we've seen that in Rosser's testing before. So yeah, this is why, like, you know, anytime somebody asks me like, what's the best X, Y, or Z, I obnoxiously say like, there is no best, there is just different. Here is my experience. Here is what my experience has been. For me, this is best, but it's not going to be best for probably anyone else. It might be, but yeah, it's, yeah. Weeblade is in the chat. What's up, dude? He says, I have one twitchy motor. How to diagnose one, how to fix it. Could your tune be the cause of a twitchy motor? What's the best way to correct this? What a beautiful segue. Actually, let me hit Ram Donko's, let me super quick get caught. Stop tagging me. Everybody stop tagging me just for a minute. I'm going to get caught up on chat real fast, and then I have a rig that's doing exactly that. So we're going to dive into the first diagnose, troubleshoot, repair from Weebleed's exact comment. This is perfect, dude. Ramdongo says, looking to swap bells, 702s, guessing there's not a dramatic weight gain. Hopefully CiottiFPV to any 0702 bell with the 1.5mm shaft. The live stream from Wednesday, I did it, and I did weights. Does anybody in the chat remember the difference in weight? Off the top of my head, I think it's a 0.2 gram increase over the entire weight of the whole rig. But I literally did it, and I show you how to do it with a bunch of really nice tricks in Wednesday's live stream. So it's probably worth it for you to watch it. Juicy JFPV says, have you seen the BetaFPV Champion limited version? How do you guys know about that is a question that I have for you. Yes, I have seen it. Pretty much all I can say, though. Shana Mindihale says, I'm a patron, but my Discord invite says invalid. Okay, for anybody that's having weird problems on the Patreon, here's what you want to do. On my Patreon, down here, you do have access to Welcome to the Gangly Gang. Click in here, and this explains how to connect it. If this doesn't work, just shoot me a message, and I will manually change you. But this right here usually fixes the issue. Cool? Islander FPV says, are 1.5mm drill bits a good size for making 1.5 motor shaft props fit a little looser? Not quite. My reamer drill bit that I use is 1.47, I believe. Yeah, my reamer drill bit is 1.47. It cost me like $30 way back when. And it is not quite big enough. What you really want is 1.48. I can make the reamer bit work by side loading the prop. If this is the reamer bit, when I put the hub of the prop on, I will push the propeller up, down, forward, back, and that will take off a little bit of extra material. But like to go from 1.47 down to 1.45, you're gonna have to really side load that thing. My worry is that when you're side loading it, you're gonna put it at an angle, and you're gonna start to make the prop not sit totally flat anymore. So technically, yes, you can make that work, but you'll be better off getting a 1.5 millimeter drill bit, which is what I have coming. And then what you do is you just put it onto the drill bit and you run the drill bit until it just barely peeks through the end of the hub, and then you take it right off. That'll remove just a tiny little bit of material. Don't leave it on there and keep spinning it. It'll open it up too much. So yeah, between a 1.45 and a 1.5, I would go with a 1.5. I used a 1.5 quite a bit to make sure that it wouldn't ruin props. And yeah, as long as you just stop as soon as the drill bit goes all the way through, it's perfect. Levster says, in my OSD, the battery is saying 5.2 volts. Even when I start flying, it stays at 5.2. Only on full throttle, it goes to 4.8. At the end of the flight, it drops to 4.5, 4.3, but it is a 1S battery. There's a scale in there, in the power tab of Betaflight, that must be wrong. Yeah. You're going to have to figure that out. That's kind of annoying. Do me a favor, Levster. Ask that question after I do this troubleshoot for Zotac at Weebleed. And I'll go into Betaflight and I'll show you the scale, and I'll show you a way of dialing that scale in. Usually they come with that scale correct. With a 1S battery, it's a total pain in the ass to set that scale. With a 2S battery, you've got a balance lead. And so you can hook a cell checker up to the balance lead that tells you currently what the battery voltage is. And then you plug the battery into your quad and you go in and you set that scale perfectly. For a 1S battery, we can't do that, because when you plug the battery into the AIO, that's it. It's going to read the voltage out. You don't have a way of monitoring the so what you're going to have to do is use a 1S. Hopefully you have a 1S cell checker. You're going to have to check the battery, and then you're going to plug it in. Unfortunately, when you plug it in, the AIO is going to pull on that battery. It's going to pull the voltage down a little bit on that battery. You're not going to know how far it has pulled it down, because when you cell checked it, it wasn't, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't firing up the... So we'll be able to get you a lot closer than you are currently, but it's not going to be quite perfect, unfortunately. I don't really know of a way around that. AJ Farris says, what's up, dude? I haven't been here in a while. Have you messed with 3D printer now? No, it's just sitting there. I haven't had anything that I've really needed to print. So yeah, it's still sitting there. I'm a monster, I know. 661 says BetaFPV sent out emails for the Air 65 Champion Edition. Okay, cool. Well, that's good. That in theory means that I can at least mention that I have one right here. I actually emailed them earlier today, and I said, or I messaged them on Facebook and Instagram, and I said, hey, when's the release date, so I know when I can mess around with this thing. Cheetonian says BetaFPV put it on their website. 661, no, we got that. Champion Edition. It's being sold on their site? Oh, so I guess today was the release date. I wish they'd told me that. They'd mentioned Black Friday to me, so I thought I had tons of time, and it just showed up the other day. Well, all right, so if there is a live stream on Sunday, in reference to what I was talking about earlier in the stream and why I'm smiling like an idiot, if there's a live stream Sunday, that will almost certainly be surrounding that rig. And Yogi, we got that. Uriel tagged me. All right, good. Nate Adams says, back in the Patreon gang, been obsessively building Whoops 3 1S HD0 AIO builds. Dude, very cool. Okay, so it looks like tons of people got kicked off of my Patreon, so please do check. Patreon changed from your only option being monthly to giving you the option to just do one single month. and for some reason they moved most people over to that 1 single month thing. And so you got that month, and then you expected it to auto renew, but it didn't. And so, yeah, there you go. All right, cool. AJ Farris says Albert Kim has a video on it. Yeah, it must be out then. Levster says, I have a cell checker. Thanks, I'll try that. Levster, do you understand what we're doing from that quick description? If not, tag me again. Cole Power says, wouldn't take much to make a BT2 extension cable. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what. Yep. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Splice something in, and then multimeter off of it. Yep. All right, cool. I'm caught up. Zotek, here you go, brother. So this 36,000 kV rig actually has the exact problem that that Zotek is talking about. So let's take a look at it. So you go to fly your quad. Everything was fine. All right, so in this situation, everything was fine. If it's a fresh build, the troubleshoot is going to be a little bit different. But this diagnosis, troubleshoot, repair that I'm about to show you is a working rig. Cool? So you've got your working build, but you don't have your transmitter. That's the problem. Or your transmitter has a crossfire receiver in it. That's the second problem. All right, here we go. So, you're flying, and all of a sudden, I won't even need the goggles for this. All of a sudden, it won't bind. There it goes. There we go. Perfect. All of a sudden, when you arm it, just, that's kind of twitching. This is sort of the same deal as twitching, really. And that'll happen. It'll go doo-doo-doop, doop-doop, and it resets. It does not like not being able to spin the motor. The very first thing that you want to do is spin this motor by hand to make sure that it's not binding up. If it's a fresh build and you're using a cockroach frame and it's a Happy Model motor, the Happy Model C-clips on the bottom of their motors are slightly bigger than on newbie drone motors. And the cockroach frames will sometimes rub on the Happy Model C-clips. And that is why, at this point, whether it's a fresh build or not, you want to just spin this motor around just to make sure that it's free. How free is too free? I don't know. Spin the other motors. They're working, right? The other motors are working. So spin those and see if there's any difference. These little motors have like no grunt, especially at idle. And so like anything rubbing against the bell of the motor or the propeller or the C-clip will prevent these from starting up, and they'll just sit there and twitch and just not work, right? So that's the first thing that you want to do. One of the little things that you'll notice is if you spin it with your finger, this is what you want it to sound like. Ready? Put this as close to the mic as I can. That's the motor that's twitching. Here's the motor next to it. You hear that? It goes, right? It's not constant. That's my fingernail against the plastic of the prop. When I spin the propeller, when I'm pushing it up like this, where the propeller is against my fingernail, the prop is actually cogging away from my fingernail, and then my fingernail is coming up and hitting it, and that's what's making each one of those little clicks. That is a motor that is not bound up typically, because it's so loose that it can actually pull the prop away and away and away. If the motor was bound up, it wouldn't make that clicking noise because it's bound up, and the cogging is not, it's not loose enough for the cogging to pull it away from my fingernail. So that's the very first thing that you want to check. Cool? If the propeller is spinning okay, the simplest thing to do is, at this point, is to switch 2 motors. And that's exactly what we're going to do. I actually have not troubleshot this yet, so I don't know. Twitching motors, motors that aren't spinning up all the way, motors that are, like, if you have an arm that's kind of dropping, like you go full throttle and one corner sags behind, that is either a motor. I mean, it could be a bunch of different things, but the 2 main things that it's going to probably be is a bad motor or a bad ESC channel. And so the quickest, easiest way to figure out if it's a bad motor or if it's an ESC channel is to put a different motor on there. You could technically swap on a fresh motor, but if that fresh motor has a problem, that will completely ruin this troubleshoot, and you'll be like, oh, it must be the ESC. It's pretty rare that you put a fresh motor on and it doesn't have a problem, but you've got a quad with 3 perfectly working motors. So put those on. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take these 2 because they both have the same rotation propeller on. If you don't have to take a prop on or off, don't. It puts every single time you take a prop on or off, unless you use when you're removing a prop, if you use one of the prop pullers, it doesn't actually put any stress on it. But every single time you put a propeller on, it puts stress on the joint between the motor shaft and the bell. So don't do it unless you absolutely have to. And in this case, with the cockroach frame, you can get the motor out through the frame hole here without pulling the propeller off. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to switch these two motors. And what we're going to see is that the problem either stays here or the problem is going to move down here. If the problem moves with the motor's the problem. If the problem stays, the ESC is the problem. If the motor is the problem, it's good to go. If the ESC is the problem, it's a little bit deeper of a troubleshoot. So in one way, hopefully the motor is the problem. Unless you don't have any extra motors, then hopefully the ESC is the problem. Because there's some other stuff that the ESC being the problem can be solved by, other than swapping out the AIO. And so let's take a look. Pull. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking off motor number 4, which is running totally fine. And now I'm removing motor number 1. And I'm going to put 1 where 4 was, and 4 where 1 was. And there we go. Okay. This is a lot of times this is where the troubleshoot kind of stops, because if the rig was working, if the motor's the problem, awesome. Swap it out, done. If the problem stays and the ESC channel is the issue, if the quad was working, there's probably a blown up FET. There's not a whole lot, unless you were dicking around in ESC configurator or Betaflight or something like that. If not, then it's probably a blown up ESC. If the rig was working, like, you might be able to put a band-aid on it by doing things like moving the idle up, but you're doing exactly that. You're putting a band-aid on it. Like, that AIO is now having a problem, and it's never going to perform to its full potential again. And, like, right now, you can get 2G4s, so, like, get a 2G4. Get a replacement 2G4, you know what I mean? Or just get a 2G4 full stop, because they're awesome. And so, yeah. There you go. Motors are swapped. Also, by moving them like diagonally like that, the motor direction should be the same. So you shouldn't need to go in. Like, I don't need to go into Betaflight at all for this troubleshoot. You could do this troubleshoot if you have a small enough screwdriver with you in the field. Not that we really go into fields very often with tiny whoops, but sometimes we do. All right, let's see. Same exact behavior, same exact channel. ESC is possibly dead. So the motors are completely fine. We've isolated that is the main thing that we've done here. In my case, yeah, this 2G4 has probably blown up. I beat the hell out of these things. Some of these 2G4s are very old, but let's just keep going down the list of things that kind of check here and see if we can bring this thing back to life, even though it might not. We might sacrifice a little bit of performance. We can at least bring it back to life while we're waiting for a replacement 2G4. Cool. And so let's try this next. Let's hook it up to Betaflight, plug in a battery, and let's try to spin that motor up in Betaflight. This isn't going to tell us much, but I just want to see the behavior, and it's an easy thing to do real quick. Let me actually unplug it. Betaflight takes forever to launch for some reason. CMYK does all his repairs in the field. CMYK is also saying, yo, what's up? What's up, homie? If you guys need graphic design done, you go to anyone other than CMYK, I will hunt you down and hit you with a metal folding chair, WWE style. Neurone FPV, I can't believe I just said WWE. It's WWF, goddammit. WWE, you idiots. Neurone FPV says, I built a bunch of 2S85 and tried different cams, and damn, the Mobula 6 2024 cam is very nice. I agree. Someone in the last live stream was saying that they hate the new Mobula 6 2024 cam. For me, I think it's actually my favorite. Better than the Flywoo, I'd say. I'll try a Runcam Nano 4 tomorrow. Thanks for your benchmark. You're certainly welcome. Mark Stott says, I have Mobula 6 2024. Flew great initially, but now becomes uncontrollable after 20 to 30 seconds. Any thoughts? I have no idea what uncontrollable means, Mark. You got to tell me more. Tag me again and tell me more. Yeah, that word could mean a million different things. There's Betaflight. All right. And here we go. So we're going to hop into the motors tab, and we'll just spin them all up. Well, motor 1 is the one that's a problem, but let's spin the rest of them up just for the sake of argument. All right. And so motor 1 is the problem child here. And as you can maybe, well, here. When I bring the slider up on motor 1, it just does that. At this point, like, the ESC is probably blown, so I can be pretty aggressive with this thing, because it's probably blown up anyway. Normally, you would not, like, I would normally not push this slider up so hard. If you've got a motor that's not turning normally, dumping more and more current into it can very easily blow the ESC FET up. I have a feeling this ESC is blown up anyway, so what the hell? I was just racking that slider all the way up. If you care and you want to try to not just throw that AIO away, which is, I'm sort of, right now, I'm just like, fuck this AIO, it's gone. I have extra 2G4s. They are available on Weebleed and Pyrodrone, I think somebody said. Maybe even get FPV. It's just replace it. Because, again, even if I can bring this thing back to life, it's never going to perform up to its proper sort of potential. Let me take a quick look. I want to see how old this 2G4 is. So I'm going to type status into the CLI. When you do that, in the middle of the block of text that it gives you, it tells you what gyro is in it. So this is a newer 2G4 because it has the BMI 270 gyro. So I'm a little bit less YOLO at this point. I thought maybe this was one of the older 2G4s that it's just like, let it die, it's fine, it's lived a big long life. But since it's a BMI 270, it might not be super old. So let's just keep going. It's still, for me, these AIOs deserve to die whenever they choose to die because of how hard I pound on these things. So I'm not upset. Just a quick check, D-Shot 300, that's fine. Bidirectional D-Shot is on. Motor idle here, this is going to be one of the things that we try, but I'm going to go into the ESC configurator first. I guess, I mean, at this point, you're already in Betaflight, so let's just do it. Let's just take the motor idle from 5.5. Let's go all the way up to 10. We're troubleshooting. Let's just see what happens. This is not going to make a difference for me. because I just fired that motor up in the motors tab, it's like that put a lot more than that motor idle into it, and it still wouldn't come to life. But again, this is me showing you all of the things that you can possibly do to bring a twitching motor situation sort of back to life. So now we put the battery back on the quad, and we arm it, and all of the other motors are now going to spin faster, and either that motor is going to come back to life or it's not. In this case, it has not, as expected. So now, pretty much like if you raise that motor slider a bunch and that motor does not fire up, you got a dead fat. But again, let's just keep going. Let me put the, well, this AIO is going in the tray. I was going to say, let me put the motor idle back down to 5.5, but I don't need to because this one is shot. But here's another round of things that you can try. ESC-configurator.com. Plug a battery in. Make sure you plug it in the right way. There we go. Click connect. Click read settings. And they're already maxed out. Minimum and maximum startup power are already maxed out. Oh, what's happening here? Oh, it's because my transmitter is still on. All right, so just to be sure, let's disconnect and reconnect. Read settings. Okay, and so just like take a look. If you come in here and there's a missing ESC, in my case it would need to be ESC1, you may have found your problem there. That is not the case for me. Everything looks fine here. It's on BlueJay 0.16, 48 kilohertz. Again, this was a working rig. I didn't come in and screw around with this stuff, so there's really no reason that this should be any different. But if you come in here and these startup powers are not completely maxed out, move them up. One thing that I could do, BlueJay 0.16 has less aggressive, 0.16, 0.17, 0.18, 0.19, they have less aggressive minimum and maximum startup power settings. One of the things I could do, I mean, screw it, let's just do it. It's blowing up anyway. If you go to version 0.21 of BlueJay, it has a much more aggressive minimum and maximum startup power, so much so that they specifically say, don't max them out. You can blow up your ESC if you max them out. Leave them where they are. By default, try it. If your motors won't start spinning, move them up a little bit. Try it again. Move them up a little bit. Move them up a little bit until the motors spin, and now you're good to go. So what I'm actually going to do right now is I'm just going to max them because, again, I am 99% sure that this AIO is done. And so screw it. I'll max them. It's not going to do anything because, again, I took that motor slider tab and I moved it way the hell up and nothing happened. When you move that motor slider tab up more than like halfway, it is dumping current into that motor. And if it's going to start, if the ESC is not fucked up, if the motor's not fucked up, it will start spinning when you do that. But again, let's see what happens here. So there we go. I'm now just going to max these and write settings. This could actually cause the FETs to catch fire, but whatever. All right, so now we're going to disconnect, and I might as well go back into Betaflight and just do it in the motors tab here. That startup power, well, let's see. Nope, still twitching. Just for the sake of argument, let me do that outside of Betaflight. Let me do that just with the rig being armed, because the motors tab forgoes certain things. I think it forgoes the idle RPM. So come on. It shouldn't forgo that startup power though. All right, there we go. Transmitter's on. and much more aggressive startup power. I can actually hear it in these other three. But motor number 1 is still not spinning. That's pretty much it, my friends. Those are essentially all of the things that have the potential to only affect one single channel. And a lot of those things we did actually affect all 4 channels. But like, see, that's why one single twitching motor is it's a pretty quick troubleshoot. You swap 2 of the motors. If the problem stays where it was, the ESC is the problem, and all 3 of the other motors are completely fine. So like a lot of these, there aren't really any settings that affect just an individual motor, right? Like it's a situation where it's like a mechanical problem. It's a physical failure. It's a FET that has died. I guess it could also be like a wiring issue. Yeah, no, it could totally be a wiring issue. But you'll be able to tell that when you rotate the motors. If the problem goes with the motor, then that motor's wiring might be the issue. But it's not going to stay. Like, it could be, maybe, I really doubt this, but it could be the plug, the motor plug on motor 1. Like, one of the pins has a cold solder joint or something like that, but like you're not going to be able to fix that. That's, yeah, like I guess you could try, but I mean they're buried under the plastic. And so yeah, I mean for the most part, if you rotate those 2 motors and the problem stays on that same channel, I mean you can try a couple of these things, but that's a dead AIO 99% of the time. Let me pull this AIO out of here. What really annoys me is that I just had this apart to put this green LED on here. But let's take this AIO out because I have to anyway. And let's just take a quick look at it and see if there's anything that we can see on that channel, on that motor 1 channel that might help. I mean, we won't. When these electronics break, they break internally. So, I mean, if it shoots fire out, you might be able to see one of the FETs be all like melted, basically, but that's super, super, super rare. 99% of the time, they just die on the inside, and that's it. Just like us when we turn 40. Ooh, it doesn't have to be when you turn 40. So let's see. AIO coming out. Now I know that this frame, these motors are good to go. So I can just drop a new AIO in here and we'll be all set. I did notice though that one of these propellers, is that a crack? A big old crack in the propeller, or is that just a hair? What is that? That's a big old crack in the propeller. Hold on, let me get that prop out of there. What's interesting is that's the prop that was on the channel that blew up, but a cracked propeller would not. Well, ooh, you know, that's interesting. This propeller being cracked, check this out. I've actually never seen one crack like this before. This might have put a bunch of maybe when this thing was spinning, it put a bunch of vibrations into that motor, and then Betaflight freaked out and put a bunch of power into that motor, which maybe blew up that channel. I really, really, really doubt that, but that is a weird coincidence that cracked propeller was on that motor. All right, so this frame is fine. I will get another AIO into here at some point because I love that 36,000 kV rig. It's all pretty. Should I redo it in clear and green, or should I keep it black and green? What do you guys think? Yeah, I just had this thing apart. I had to glue the... I'm going to do a poll. I don't do polls often enough. That's what she said. What color combo? I swear to God, if I hear one more person say colorway, I'm going to smack every person on Earth. Black and green. Clear / white and green. There you go. Poll it up, my friends. Work that poll. Uriel says, in the Netherlands, when you're single at 35, they fix you. An ox. They fix you an ox party. Ramdogla says, no place like home. All right. So here is the AIO in question. Here's the problem child. Let me take a quick look with a 5x loop first. So it's this back right channel. And I'm kind of like looking for solder balls. I'm looking for any kind of weirdness. I soldered the different battery lead on in the left side, so that's not it. Unless like a solder ball flung itself across. That would be pretty insane though. Yeah, no, I don't see anything. Plus, like, on these tiny whoop AIOs, man, everything is so goddamn small. That it's awful difficult to see anything. All right, so this over here, hold on. This is motor channel 1 here. Those there we go. Those square bastards are the FETs. So we've got one FET off on the right there, and then 2, 3, 4 on the left there, 5 above it diagonally, 6 above it to the left diagonally. So, and this is motor channel 1 here on the left. You see the pins, and there's the plug. So almost certainly one of these 3 FETs, please, there we go. Either that FET on the top there that's got the glare on it, that FET right to the right of the pins, or this FET here on the very far left have died. But as you can see, there's no signs of that, right? Like, they look totally fine. That is very normal. That is usually what happens. What I'm looking for, though, is on the pins of those FETs, are there any solder balls bridging the pins of those FETs? And, like, you guys are kind of looking at this in 5X. I sort of, that the goop and shit that you see is actually E6000 from the antenna. These wire antennas, you want to put a little blob of E6000 at the base of them, otherwise they'll break off right where the solder joint is. And so, yeah, I mean, this is probably dead. Let me take... Oh, Brandon's Baked Beans with a great recommendation. Press on the FETs on the dead channel and see if that helps. That'll tell you if there's basically like a pad lifting. It's really hard to fix at that point. Like, you have to reflow it, which is not impossible. Apparently you can, if your oven goes low enough, you can reflow. But yeah, I mean, at that, it's physically broken at that point, and so your odds of getting it back to life, bringing it back to life, are pretty low. But yeah, I mean, I'm just taking another quick look. I know I'm on the wrong camera, but just bear with me. Yeah, no, I'm taking a look, and I'm not seeing much of anything. Like, the gaps in between these FETs are too small to get a soldering iron in. Yeah, like, this is getting replaced. There's a little piece of grass in there. I wish I had one of those more powerful loops. Now I'm all amped up to get a 10x and a 15x and a 20x loop. from Amazon. I should have put them on the order, one of those on the order with the drill bits earlier today. Now I'm taking a look at the bottom just to kind of see if there's anything weird going on down here. But there's not. It just died. I'm also taking a look at the plug to make sure that like one of the pins isn't bent. But if one of the pins is bent, it wouldn't spin at all. It wouldn't twitch. It wouldn't spin. It would just sit there. So I kind of ruled that out early on without even really mentioning it. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just dead. I mean, at this point, like, you could try to reflow it. I don't know how that would work with all these plastic bits on here. There's a plastic camera plug. There's all the plastic motor plugs. I don't know if you'd be able to... I don't know what would happen to those. Would they melt all over the damn place when you reflow it? I've never reflowed one of these things. So I don't really know. If somebody has... please let us know in the chat. That would be super cool. But yeah, this rig was working, and then it stopped working. This is also a build that I have absolutely battered the living hell out of. These 36,000 kV motors have a lot of power, and so when I've crashed with this thing, it has crashed hard. And so, like I said earlier, I am okay with the fact that this thing has let go. Take a disgusting toothbrush that you're never going to use in your mouth again, and just brush some of this dirt and grass and shit off. That'll give you a better look at it. If you really want to go ham, put some isopropyl alcohol on it and then brush it off with that. It'll evaporate really quick, and it won't like rust or anything like that. But yeah, again, once you've isolated that it's not a motor, just throw it away. 9 times out of 10, if it's not the motor, no matter how hard you try, you're not really going to bring it back to life. And if you do manage to band-aid it and bring it back to life, it ain't going to be for long. One of the pins on one of the FETs does look a little bit weird. Let me see if these let me see if I can ruin these fine-tipped tweezers by dropping them on the desk. Let me see if these fine-tipped tweezers will be small enough to get in there and see what the hell that is. Oh yeah, I broke the one tip right off just now. That's aggravating. No, it's fine. It was just like a piece of dirt or something on it. Yeah, no, it looks totally fine. That's a shame. So, at this point, a really nice thing to do is to grab a diff off of this. This AIO was flying good, and so why not pull a diff, especially if like you loved how it was flying. Why not pull a diff from it so that when you replace it, you can just drop that diff onto the new one and save yourself a bunch of time. Here's how you do that. Plug it into Betaflight, plug it into USB, I should say, connect to Betaflight, come down to the CLI, take a look at what version it's on. In this case, it's on 4.5.1. In the CLI, you're going to type DIFF. That stands for different, as in all of the things that are different from a totally stock tune. And then you're just going to highlight right next to the last little bit there and come all the way up to the top. Copy it, and now it's in your clipboard. And now all of those settings are safe. And now I happen to have another 2G4 just kind of sitting here. It doesn't have the fancy little battery lead on it. But, hold on. Do I have one that's... It does have the little battery lead on it? I do not. Wait, is this a 2G4 or is this an X12? No, yeah, it's a 2G4. Let's swap that battery lead over. That's a fun little soldering project. CLI dump gives you absolutely everything, but the problem with a dump is it doesn't have any of the sets in there. So with a dump, you won't be able to just copy and paste it onto the CLI in the new rig and have it make any actual changes. It's just the dump is just a record of everything that's been changed, which is valuable, but it's a bunch of work to then go in there and type set in over and over again. I'm sure you could probably do a find and replace or some fancy shit like that. This is the blown up one. We are going to pull this fancy little green Tiny Whoop 180 degree BT 2.0 ding dong off of there. This is the Omni Fixo. It is amazing. If you're going to be working on Tiny Whoop stuff, you should probably get one. They're not that expensive. They are 1,000 times better than any of the other helping hands out there in my experience and opinion. I'm going to put my nerd goggles on, of course, because I can't see shit anymore, even though I have really good vision. But Tiny Whoop stuff is just too goddamn small. Put a little bit of flux on here just to make my life a little easier. And let's get this out of here. Porky Chop says 10x loop is so much better. I'm down with that. I remember thinking that the 5x loop was like, oh my god, I'll never ever need to see closer than this. All right. So there's my fancy lead. I now need to make these round again in order to get them through. This AIO is just donezo. There's really not much, if anything, that you can salvage from these. I hold on to them. Someday, like, I would... Yeah, I'll do like a little sculpture or have somebody do like... I got to bug Mitch McConnell from McConnell Studios, see if he has any interest in doing like a cool sculpture using blown up electronics. But yeah, this is done. And this is the sound of me throwing it across the room. It just hit the ground. You couldn't hear it. These guys I need to get flattened out. I love to use a little piece of wood to do that. And so let's just knock that out real quick. Sorry, not flatten. I need to round these out. So a little bit of that. A little bit of that. All right, that one's looking good. There goes this one. Almost. There we go. Oh, now let me just hit this one real quick. There we go. Okay, when you do that, you really want to look closely for little strands that are trying to escape. That can ruin your day. All right, we are good. And so back to the matter at hand. Omni Fixo functioning 2G4, I think. It was just sitting here on the desk, so I'm usually half decent organized, but there is technically a chance that this is blown up, and I just didn't put it where I should have, but I doubt that. I think this is from a little drift car chasing rig that I pulled apart. There was no reason to have 3 analog drift car chasing rigs. I did that to kind of compare cameras. But yeah. All right. That is not heating up. It is not getting a good contact patch. And flux is almost always the answer. Watch this. And there we go. Okay, so let's get this handy dandy little fella on here. Round is ground. And so that's going to be this one. And so that's going to be over there. Let me do this, though. I'm going to solder wick these. And that'll open the entire hole back up. Just makes it a little bit easier to get back in here. So let's put a big old blob of flux, because the wick does absorb a lot of heat. And I run my iron at 710, because I'm a nerd. That is a little bit hot, but if you're quick, it's totally fine. And what it allows me to do is not constantly have to bounce back and forth, turning the temperature up and down and up and down and up and down on the soldering iron. It's hot enough for some of the thicker wires. It's not too hot for the 30 gauge stuff. So the solder wick is going to absorb an obnoxious amount of solder, and it completely cleared that hole out. Don't try to double it up, though. Cut it off. Cut it off for each pad that you do. I might need to add a little bit of flux here, but let's just see. Oh, it might be all right. Hey, good to go. Be careful. If the flux touches other components that are near that one, it could very well wick. I'm sorry, if the wick touches other components around where you're working, it can very easily pull the solder off of that joint. I don't think that happened here to this little tiny capacitor right next door, but just to be sure, I'm going to just put a tiny little bit of extra solder on the one side of this capacitor right here. There we go. Being super careful not to knock that capacitor off. All right, so that should be fine. And all right, so we now have the through holes open back up. And what's nice about that is that you can just feed this through and then just add solder from the top, and you don't have to worry about any individual strands of wire kind of popping off. So that one fits, and the ground fits as well. Always do the one that's short first. A little trick with the Omni Fixo is to put that through there. Hold on, let me give you this angle. This will be better. So you put one of those through. Come on. Come on, you jerk. Focus on the thing that's right in front. Hey. Don't you focus on those stickers again. I love the way these stickers look on this toolbox, but boy, oh boy. Do they make it want to focus on them? Focus algorithms work off of contrast, and there's a lot of contrast between those stickers. You can see what I'm doing here, though. Feed it through there, and then you can use one of the other Omni Fixo arms to hold the wire. And then you've got a free hand. And it'll hold the wire in like the perfect spot for you. So you can even get like your nice little angle on the wire here too when you're doing it. The Omni Fixo is way better than the other helping hands because it doesn't have that like tension and bounce back nonsense. When you put it where you want it to be, it stays exactly there. Anybody that's used any other helping hands will know exactly what I mean. It's really a complete game changer. It's so much better. All right, so there we go. That's in the perfect spot. we're just going to come in on top with some fresh solder. I'm going to put the tip of the soldering iron on one side of this through hole, and then I'm going to push the solder on top of the wire and sort of diagonally into the tip of the soldering iron. So there's the soldering iron on one side. As soon as I start pushing this solder in, it's going to melt, and that's going to create a nice contact patch. And now what that does is that heats up the entire through hole, and that's what we want. Because we want this solder to flow down into the through hole and around where the wire is. And then if you just quickly pull the tip of the soldering iron away, you won't get that little Hershey kiss shape. And now that looks really good. You want to make sure that the solder is not, so you've got a round wire, and then you've got a lot of times a square through hole. You want to make sure the solder is going from the wire to the actual outside of the through hole. If you just have a big blob of solder on top of the wire, that wire might be able to move up and down in that through hole. That is all bad. That is super, super, super bad. You do not want that. That is a solder joint that will like work sometimes, not work other times. You'll get like weird brownouts, all kinds of nonsense will happen. All right, so here's the positive lead. Doing the exact same thing. One of the things I'm doing here, since it's a tiny whoop, is I'm adding a little bit of angle to the wire. I want the wire to go backwards towards the battery. If the wire comes straight out the bottom, it's going to have to do a 90-degree bend. That's kind of silly. Give it a little 45. I'll show you once it's done. It'll just... yeah, you can run the wire shorter that way, and it actually reduces stress on the wire because it's not having to make a full 90. Same deal. I'm going to put the soldering iron on one side of this joint. I'm trying to touch the soldering iron to both the wire and the through hole. And that's perfect. Give it a second. And flick the tip of the soldering iron off of there, and then it gives a beautiful little shiny ball. Let's see if this will... oh my god, anyone wearing headphones, you have died. My apologies for killing you. But you're dead now, so good luck with that. So that's what we just did. It just doesn't get quite close enough. That's the angle that I'm telling you about. Nice 45-degree angle towards the rear. We've still got the silicone pushing up against the board. Obviously not all the way around, but it's the front of the silicone is pushing up against the board there. It's almost better without the 5X loop. I think it might actually be. And yeah, that's really how I like to have the tiny whoop power leads exiting. You can run a shorter wire. It's a little bit less stress because it doesn't have to make that 90-degree angle. And sometimes it helps with the frames too. And yeah, that's looking good. Let me just take one quick last look. The other thing that you kind of want to see, and man, is this going to be tough for me to show you, but I will give it a try, is that if you have that 40-degree angle, there is a little bit of wire showing on the bottom here. You should see solder down there. Look at the bottom of the solder joint to see if you can see a little bit of wire showing. And if there is wire showing, you want flux on that. That's kind of important. Let me see if that'll help. See down there? See how it's shiny next to the silicone? So you can see the solder in there. That's what you want. You want to make sure that the solder penetrates down through the through hole. That's telling me that there's a really solid connection. there's through hole and then a big ass blob of solder, basically, and then the wires. That's what you want. You want to make sure that there's not raw wire down here, because what that could mean is that you only have a blob of solder on the top of the wire. The solder needs to penetrate and melt between the through hole and the actual individual wires. Cool? That's about as good as it gets right there. The through hole, just to kind of explain, the through hole has whatever the hell the metal is, brass or copper or something, coating all the way around the inside, and then on the top and the bottom of the PCB, it extends out a little bit. Sometimes it extends out into a box. A lot of times they do that on the ground pads. The ground pads, you'll be able to tell by it's a square, and you'll see it. You'll see that that material there. And so what you really want is for the solder to be all the way around the top and then all the way on the inside between the wire and the actual through hole, and then on the bottom as well. You want that solder to connect the entire thing. That is the strongest possible connection that there is on a PCB. And that will pretty much never fail, regardless of how hard you pull on it. Like, you'll taco this AIO in half before these two solder joints that I just did let go. ThrashFPV says 2G4 AIOs are in stock on Pyrodrone. I mentioned that earlier. WeBleed also has a whole bunch of them in stock. And so, yeah, CiottiFPV.com. I forgot to shill. This is my full-time job, friends. CiottiFPV.com has all of the ways that you can support me. Patreon helps me out the most. If you think that you're on my Patreon, you might actually not be on there. They've kicked tons of people from monthly to individual months with no auto renewal without telling anyone. So please check. If you want to be on my Patreon, you might not be on it. If you haven't gotten emails from me every single time I've live streamed, you're not on my Patreon. You can also go to Discord and just type something in there and see what color your name is. Your name, if your name is white, Patreon kicked you. Your name should be either red or yellow or purple on my Discord. If it's not, then yeah, Patreon removed you. I'm sorry they did that. I'm the one that literally paid for it, or didn't get paid for it, I guess. But yeah, check it if you guys don't mind. There's a ton of affiliate links over on my website. I know it's impossible to remember to click them. You can change your bookmarks if you still use bookmarks to the affiliate links. That way you don't have to think about it. If you just type into your URL bar, you can remove your current suggestion for all of those websites that I have affiliate links to, and just hit my affiliate links a couple times, and that'll trick your browser into thinking that when you type AMA for Amazon, you actually want to go to my affiliate link. Those are the two super easy ways to use affiliate links and not have to think about it. If you don't use my affiliate links, use someone else's. They are free money. It means an awful lot to those of us that are creating content here on YouTube. And yeah, we rely on them. We really do. So this guy is now good to go. Watch this. I can just plug it in to the computer real quick. Oh, I thought this is a board that I covered over the LEDs, and I thought the board just blew up on me. I've got that diff still in the clipboard, so I can just come in here and paste it, and that is all of the things. What the hell is that? Man, I hate Apple's calendar. It's just broken. Apple's calendar is just broken. You cannot turn off the alarm that you previously set when their calendar broke. There you go. That's all of the things that were on that diff, although I did just notice that this is on Betaflight 4.4.3. You know what? I'm actually going to keep this on 4.4.3. We're looking for red text. If you see any red text... Hang on one second. Before I save this, let me type status. Oops, that's not how you spell it. All right, so this 2G4 actually has an ICM gyro. This diff is from a 2G4 that had a BMI 270 gyro. So A, my filtering is going to be completely wrong. But B, the VTX table might be different. So in this scenario, I'm not going to save this. I'm going to disconnect, and I'm actually going to leave this AIO exactly as it is. This was in a rig. It was flying. And so this AIO is actually fine. If I was going to another 2G4 that had a BMI 270, the filtering would be fine. The VTX table might still be wrong, though. It's way safer to go through Betaflight and take screenshots of each individual tab. It'll only take a couple of minutes. And then don't do the diff, because the diff brings everything over. And Happy Model has a bad habit of making changes and like not saying anything. And things have changed between these two G4s. Gyros have changed, VTX tables have changed. And so doing the diff is a little sketchy. And so, yeah, I'm not going to save on here. I'm going to leave this as it is. This was on an RC drift kart chasing rig, so it's probably totally fine. If this was coming from like a 75mm rig, there are probably some changes I would need to make. This almost certainly came off of a build that did not have motors that are this high of a KV on it, but that's okay. What's kind of interesting is that this is on 4.4.3. I'm super curious to see. I know what I had the PIDs set at because I have that diff. I wonder if, and that the previous AIO was on 4.5. I wonder if I'll be able to run the PIDs higher on this with 4.4.3 on it. I absolutely trust Brandon's Baked Beans, and he's told me that there's really no reason that from 4.3 to 4.4 to 4.5 that anything has changed. But I've got a couple of rigs, and one of the reasons that we're doing this stream tonight is that I've got a bunch of rigs that I've moved from 4.3 to 4.5 that I pulled the PIDs over, I pulled the filtering, I pulled everything over, and they are oscillating to the moon on 4.5. And I've heard from some other people that they've had some weird experiences with 4.5. So I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, using diffs is a little bit sketchy. Fair warning. God forbid there's some weird filter setting that can potentially come over and cause issues. And so the safer, smarter thing to do is, like I said, just take screenshots of stuff. And then, why am I not doing this on the bench? And then manually go through the new AIO or the new flight controller and set everything in there by hand. That prevents any possibility of some weird nonsense coming over in the CLI. And like, if that weird nonsense comes over in the CLI, you're going to have to find it by digging through the CLI, and that sucks. So if that like ever happens, the amount of time it's going to take you to find that will completely offset any time that you could have ever saved by doing a diff. So yeah, if you're going to do a diff, you want to be damn sure that the flight controller, the AIO that you're dumping that into is absolutely exactly the same, no question whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? All right, so I had E6000 this, and now I've got the E6000 residue all over the UFL here. Let me just hit my head real quick and then peel that off. Sorry, this is actually E7000, which is black. There we go. All right. So there's that little blobbo. And so let's plug this. Hey, I ordered 20 more. So like I had a couple micro V's up on the Etsy store and they sold like immediately. So I ordered 20 more micro V's, and the ones that I ordered are this custom spec. So there's going to be a new item over on Etsy for the CiottiFPV customized micro V's. If you got the regular ones, they're completely fine. It's the cable is like 4 millimeters shorter or something like that, and the shrink wrap is ever so slightly longer. It's no big deal, but hey, yeah, those are being made for me, which is pretty awesome. All right, so this is back in here. Let's get these screws back in. All right. So that's looking good. I should have maybe switched this frame out while I was at it. This frame is getting old, but we will run it into the dirt. Oh wait, no, hold on. Let me get a little dab of E7000 to hold the UFL down. And I don't go nuts with it. I just like put it on one side. I do make sure that I wrap it up onto the top of the UFL. But yeah, you don't usually have to go nuts. Just get a little bit of E6000 or E7000 up from the top of the UFL down onto the PCB. And that will prevent those from popping off. I know it's kind of annoying to do it, but just do it. I really didn't want to do it just now, but hey, there we go. Super simple. I hate doing it because I then fly these things and I get it all over myself. But it's way better than having this shit pop off. All right. One thing I'm definitely going to have to do, is check the motor direction here. These motors will almost certainly not all be spinning in the right direction. Mainly because I put the green motor wires on this one motor here, and I wired them in. I wired it differently than the other 3 motors. So we're gonna hook this into Betaflight in a minute. Get them spinning in the right direction, and then we should be good. And again, as I mentioned earlier, this way of diagnosing, these troubleshoots, yes, we're doing it on a tiny whoop, but tiny whoops have all the same parts, all the same pieces, all the same troubleshoots as bigger quads. Yes, they have an AIO. If you have an individual ESC and flight controller, every once in a while that'll have a slightly different troubleshoot, but typically not. Typically, it's going to be the exact same process, top to bottom, of diagnosing, troubleshooting, and repairing, be it a tiny whoop or a Cinelifter or anything in between. I also need another propeller for this guy. Are these the 1 mil? They sure are. This guy, since it's got 36,000 kV motors on it, is using the Gemfan 1210 biblades. If you're running motors that are massive kV like this, I really recommend running these biblade propellers. It'll also give you a really nice like off-throttle throw. One of the things I absolutely love about the Gemfan 1210s is that you do not need to drill them out. The inner diameter is perfect on these. so that you can push them onto the motor shaft. If you ever want to know what the right amount of pressure is for putting a propeller onto a motor shaft so that you're not hurting the motor, but so that the propeller will not fly off, buy a bag of Gemfan 1210s and push them onto a motor. That is the perfect amount of pressure. How about that? I never thought to say that, but boy, is that true. Or just run Gemfan 1210s on everything, and then you'll never damage a motor and motor shaft. Unless the mold changes at some point. So here you go, 36,000 kV Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoop. This really is. This is the formula here, baby. Old school Mobula 6 in a Cockroach V3 frame, 18.06 grams. Yes, there are rigs that are lighter. Yes, they are a little bit more accurate to fly, but they don't have the same mass for the off-throttle throws, and they are not as durable. This is the most durable formula I have ever found in tiny whooping. And that's more important to me than having something that's like a little bit better to fly or has a little bit better runtime. The durability, having a tiny whoop that is really durable is magic, because you just fly it. Like, you just fly it and fly it and fly it and fly it and fly it, and there's none of this like, I don't want to break it, or like, is it broken, or you really take it for granted. It's kind of nice. It's not kind of nice. It's really nice. All right, so here we go. We're gonna go into the motor direction wizard. I understand the risks. Wizard, start and spin. What? That was weird. Motor 1 wasn't spinning. Hold on. What does that mean, chat? What does that potentially mean, chat? Who can figure out what that means? Think of the whole troubleshoot, though. Think of everything that we've done. Looks like everybody... I forgot to check the poll, but it looks like everybody wants me... not everybody, but more than half want me to do black and green, so that's good. Nope. Kevin J with a $20 super chat. Dude, thank you. He says, I'm late. Did you have a good Halloween? Did you have lots of trick-or-treaters? Did you dress up? Didn't dress up. We had way more trick-or-treaters than last week. Kinetic got it. Way more trick-or-treaters than last year. I did have a great Halloween. Maggie and I hung out. You know what we did? We watched The Birds from the 60s. Boy, what a terrible movie. They don't, there's no, it's funny, halfway through the movie I said, I hadn't seen it all the way through. Halfway through the movie I said, I guarantee you, they do not tell us, they do not pay off or tell us in any way why these birds are attacking, or like anything surrounding that. And sure as shit, at the end of the movie, they just drive off into the sunset with absolutely no resolution whatsoever as to why just random flocks of birds started attacking everyone. We've gotten a lot better at making movies over the years. That is basically what that is. In film school, I didn't necessarily go to film school, but I did TV radio as my concentration in communications for my degree. You watch a lot of those old movies because, like, it's when we were figuring out how to make movies, like, we would figure one thing out at a time. And so, like, watching a lot of those older movies, you can just, like, hey, this movie pioneered this thing, film noir or whatever. And the birds is a good example of that, where like it's just as like a movie, it's just insane. But yeah. So the right answer is the frame. Remember we rotated the motors and it didn't, and nothing happened. What that leads me to believe is that the hole in the frame is rubbing on the motor shaft. Here's the difference though. When I moved the motor slider up, this motor fired up. And it spun up fine. I'm going to drill this out just a little bit more and see if that behavior returns. So hold on. I'm going to have to do that in the garage. But yeah, that leads you to believe that it's a physical problem with the frame, right? Because we rotated the motors, we switched the AIO. I'm actually going to not put that AIO into the bag of all blown up electronics because there's a chance that it's okay. What's interesting is but again, with this AIO, I was able to move that motor slider up and this motor fired up. And when you heard me spin the motors up to full throttle, what I was looking at was the RPM coming back. And I compared motor 1 to motor 2, and they both hit 70,000 RPM. So it's not a huge problem with the frame. I think that AIO is still blown up. Because when I moved the motor slider up with that other AIO, it wouldn't come to life. What I bet you happened is that channel on that AIO blew up because it was maybe rubbing a little bit. But I'll be able to tell you that in a second. Let me just drill this out. Here comes a little bit more. By the way, at the beginning of the live stream, that was the Walksnail 2S 75mm whoop. Here's another quick bit of flight footage from that rig while I go super quick drill this guy out. I'll be right back. No music or anything. Make your own music. Sing along. No, make the sounds. Go. Down, boy. I was right. It is 9/64. 9/64 is the drill bit size. I just typed it into the... Nope. I just typed it into the chat. That is the drill bit size that is just barely big enough to get the... Happy Model C-clips to not rub. And so what I did is I actually just took that drill bit by hand and ran it around in here real quick to open this hole in the frame up a little bit. And I want to show you what happens on these cockroach frames that could potentially cause this to happen when you do a motor swap. I've seen this a couple times now. I'm just making sure all the little bits of plastic are out of here. What you're watching is much more interesting than what I'm doing. I actually can't show you what I'm doing because I need to be able to hold this up to my face to do it. Okay, so there we go. All right, so here's what's going on. The when you crank motors down, if you over tighten them a little bit, you will triangle this hole. See how this hole is not really super round anymore? You see how it's bowed in by where the screw holes are? When you crank those screws down, they push that plastic into where the C-clip rides around. Right? You can really see it there. See that top screw pushing on in there? So there's a chance that when I was swapping a motor out, well, I'll put it this way. Every time you swap a motor out, it's going to push that plastic a little bit farther. And so you got to be really careful. It's like this on the Cockroach V3 frame and the Light AF. So don't bury these motor screws. That's why the very first thing that I said was to manually spin that motor around with your finger. And that usually tells you the tail. We're about to see. Because usually it's pretty obvious whether or not the something's dragging there. But sometimes, if it's just barely dragging, and if the AIO, if that channel on the AIO is already kind of like weak, something like this can happen. Holy cow, it's almost 9 o'clock already. I thought we were going to troubleshoot a bunch of different rigs. All right, so let's see. When I hit this with the 9/64 drill bit, it definitely removed some plastic. So, yeah, that might have something to do with it. It might not. Sometimes these motors will just be twitchy in that motor tab. That motor tab uses a very low amount of power to spin these motors very slowly. I'm assuming because they know that people are not going to remove the propellers and they want, they don't want to chop anybody up. Usually that's not the case, but sometimes that is absolutely the case. All right, let's take a look. Plug it back. I still haven't fixed the motor direction. So I still do need to do that. All right, we are plugged into Betaflight. Let's connect. Let's give it some power. And let's take a look. Motors, motor direction. I understand the risks. Wizard, start and spin. Now the motor spins up fine. So there is a chance that that old AIO is actually okay. I kind of doubt it. But I am very glad that this happened because this is an important thing. This is another AIO where this does not work. So let me come in here and I'll figure out which ones need to get reversed, and I'm going to have to do it in ESC Configurator. 1 is wrong. 2 is wrong. 3 is right. 4 is wrong. 1, 2, and 4. Connect. Read settings. All right. 1, 2, and 4. Right settings. This is on BlueJay 0.19. Why? I'm going to get this off of 0.19. Flash all ESCs. Flash local firmware. I'm looking for OH5. All right. Let me flash this to 0.16. OH5, where are you at? OH5 48. There it is. I can't believe how quickly I just found that. All right, so I want normal, reverse, normal, normal. Uriel says, get prepared for the next days is important. Uriel says, check, check, double check. Veritas says, scary movie, Bird Box, Sandra Bullock, John Malkovich. Where's Teddy? Teddy's running around. I hate scary movies. I will not watch Bird Box. That is ridiculous. I have issues with nightmares. I have issues sleeping. The last thing I'm going to do is bring nightmares into the pain in the ass. Ram Donko just watched Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, which he hadn't seen before. I've heard awesome. Shaun of the Dead I have seen. Uriel says shapeshifters, ravens. Are they shapeshifters? What? Ginger FPV says, why did you choose whoops to fly? Do you still like other sizes? Yep. I fly everything other than whoops on like professional flying gigs. And then whoops are really nice for the live streams because I can literally fly them during the live streams. Also, if it's night, if it's raining, if it's too cold, if it's too hot, whoops are... Nowadays, whoops perform so well that, like, you kind of... Yeah, I don't miss flying other stuff, to be totally honest. It's kind of insane to say that, but it's the goddamn truth. And in a lot of ways, whoops are harder. It is way easier to go out to a parking lot and just avoid trees than it is to rip these things around the basement where I have to avoid the couch and the dog and the, you know, bar cart and stuff like that. Wait, no, I don't want that. Motor direction. Here we go. Wizard, start and spin. Yep, that motor spins up fine now. So there you go. The little trick of spinning the motors by hand is not infallible. This is me learning that right along with you. These PIDs are certainly going to be too much. Let's just back them off a little bit. And then we're going to do a little bit of flying here. This all looks fine. That looks fine. Turn that up a little bit. Rates are good. Throttle mid is probably going to have to come down a little bit. I'm going to take a guess at 38% throttle is usually somewhere around where I live. I'm going to move this filtering up just a little bit. And, all right, let's take a look. So this is an AIO that had much lower kV motors on it. These PIDs might be too aggressive. This is on 4.4.3. Motors are spinning the right direction. Let's see how it flies. It's got low power until first arm. So right now it is in pit mode. As soon as I arm it, though, it'll come out of there. ELRS arms so fast when you first plug it in with the transmitter on. It's almost worth it to not even bother waiting for it to arm if you power the quad up before your transmitter. All right. Clean lens. Man, I need to clean the lenses more on these RunCam Nano 3s. Did you guys see what a difference that made? Holy shit. The lens on the Nano 3 is so small that, like, you can't tell if it's dirty or not. Oh, hey! Tune's fine. Ooh, the tune is on the limit, though. I can hear it. Whoa, hey! Woo! Ooh, that float! 36,000 kV motors, my friends. There's Sage getting some food, I guess. It looks like. Whoa, hey! Easy, fella. Oh, my favorite new move. Oh, God! No, no! Don't go in the sink. Thank you. Oh, God, no! No, the rug is lava! Oh, I got very lucky. Yeah, get it? No, no, no. All right, let's see. How good could I hover this? Okay, okay. It's hovering. It's hovering. It's hovering. It's hovering. It's hovering. Ha 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 ha! No, no, no. No, no, no. Rug is lava. Oh, man, I'm getting lucky on that rug tonight. That sounds dirty. I wanted to get a good orbit going here. There we go. Oh, easy, easy, easy. Get in there. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, boy. Don't fly it home with the battery that low, you idiot. Don't do it. Ah, I didn't make it. It did the death wobble when I went full throttle just now. Oh, I'm so sorry. Tattoo battery, I'm so sorry. That was mean. That was a mean thing to do. Kinetic, man. Kinetic is paying attention. He nailed it. C-clip is rubbing. Good shit. Ram Donko was close. Motor oil required. But remember, the motor's swapped. Let me make sure I didn't miss any other... I did. I'm so sorry. Virus X Jack, I'm so sorry, man. I missed your super chat. $4.99. He says, I hope you're still here, brother. He says, I know the Hummingbird 3.1 RS put you in a bad mood a few weeks ago. But did you ever get a replacement / get it to work? No. I am planning on buying the Radiomaster Nomad dual bands 2.4 and 900 module and receivers and whatnot. And that should work with the 3.1 RS. And so Newbie Drone offered for me to mail them back, and they were going to take the oscillator off of them and put a new one on. And I was like, nah, that's so much work. Like, I'm planning on getting the Nomad anyway. So yeah, I haven't flown it yet. I'm so sorry I missed your super chat until now, Virus Jack. If you're not still here, I hope you're watching this on repeat. Dine Noodle, I can't imagine what that means, says, what do you think of the durability of the Betaflight 5-in-1 AIO versus the Happy Model 2G4? Kind of prefer the lower weight. My BetaFPV 5-in-1 AIO failed the second time I tried to remove the UFL antenna. I know a bunch of other people that has happened to. On one hand, just don't remove the antenna, put an antenna onto it, E6000 it down, and hope to hell that it never dies. But I can't call a product durable where that's the case. So to me, the BetaFPV 5-in-1 is not durable. Other than that UFL problem, I've not heard that it's durable. I have heard that it's kind of fragile in other ways. Not from everyone, but you compare that to the 2G4, which has been the most durable Tiny Whoop AIO by like orders of magnitude over any other Tiny Whoop AIO, and it's kind of no contest. Yes, the BetaFPV 5-in-1 is lighter, but it's not. It's not that much lighter to offset the massive difference in durability. Also, it's direct solder, which is super annoying. So for me, it's still 2G4 or nothing, which is super annoying because I would love to get these things down below 18 grams. But yeah, no, the 2G4 is just magic. I don't know what Happy Model did. James Thomas says, forgot to tag the above. He says, your thoughts on Emax Tiny Hawk 3, 6-amp 1-2S, and the GEP-RC Taker. Tiny Hawk 3 I've reviewed on the channel before, is pretty damn good. GEP-RC Taker I don't know anything about. Oh, don't use the Emax Tiny Hawk AIO on any other builds though. It's a very specific AIO. It's like a weird shape. And yeah, I don't know that GEP-RC. Sorry. BMF Spade says the OmniFixo is the shiznit. It is indeed. Thrash says, at what bit rate should I start thinking about turning around for long range Avata 2 flights? Like how it says 60 megabits per second, etc. For me, I turn around. I don't know Avata 2 stuff, but for me with digital VTX setups, when they start to get blocky, I go, and then as soon as it stutters, the first time it gives me any change in frame rate, any loss of frames, I'm done. I'm turning around. Long range guys might be willing to push farther, and they probably know the megabits and the other thing that quantifies the signal strength by numbers better than me. But like for me, when it blocks out, when the the image starts to get blocky, like obviously we're getting towards the end of range, and then as soon as I lose a frame, it's just like nope, not worth it. I don't fly long range stuff. So yeah, that's the safe way to do it in my opinion, and it's very obvious. Brandon's Baked Bean says you like that T7000 more than E6000? Not really. I just have it. My E6000 ran out. They're pretty much the same as far as I'm concerned. All right, cool. I'm caught up on the chat. Nope, no, I'm not. Blue Sky says, I recently watched a couple of your old streams about Throttle Expo. Thank you. I can fly in the house so much better now. You're certainly welcome. That is a hell of a live stream that anybody that's trying to fly tiny whoops in the house should watch. Go to my channel, click the little magnifying glass. You'll to search only in my channel and search for Throttle Expo. You'll find it. Todd Houston says, this is the first thing I'm going to check. Did motor and frame swap on the Air 65 Cockroach V3 Newbie Drone 29000s? Yep. Check it for sure. Dronesen says, my 4-in-1 ripped the UFO off and pulled the trace with it. Yep, that's the other problem on the BetaFPV 4-in-1, 5-in-1 is that when that UFL rips off, it takes the trace with it, and it's the whole board is just done. Like there's nothing. I mean, if you can figure out a way to turn the VTX off in there, you can technically run an external VTX. But like, come on, you bought it because it had the internal VTX. If not, you might as well buy the lighter weight, old school, arguably more durable BetaFPV AIO. All right, I'm caught up. And this thing flies great. Again. So cool. We diagnosed and troubleshot one rig, and I got the diagnosis wrong initially, but sometimes that happens, man. Sometimes it takes a while to get to the point where you've diagnosed it properly. I'm going to pay a lot more attention to the interaction between the C-clips and the frames. Yeah, no, this one's good. This is the 32,000 kV Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoop with the light AF frame as opposed to the V3 Cockroach frame. I believe this is the exact same setup, now different props, but they're slightly lighter props. This one weighs... Why are you not down into the 17s with the lighter weight frame, you little jerk? This one's 18.1 grams. Something must be... some of these Happy Model 2G4 AIOs, I swear to God, they're a little bit thicker, which makes them heavier. That's the only thing I can think of here, because this is set up exactly the same. Let's put a battery through it. I think this thing works, but I've kind of lost track. And we be flying 6 batteries a day, yo, and so should you. So let's get our battery number 2 in today. '0702 32,000 kV motors with, here's the main difference here, is that this is using the HQ ultralight tri-blade YOLO props. Since the motors are lower kV, the tri-blade props bring a little bit of that power back. So this actually has comparable power to the rig that I was just flying because of the tri-blades. But the flight performance is noticeably different, again, because of the tri-blades. Is it not bound? What's the deal here? Let's power cycle it, see what happens. Oh, I'm glad I hit the wrong button on the... Look at that, it's not bound. Okay. How's that? Was I not just flying this like last week? Here's how you bind ELRS. Nah, you guys know how to bind ELRS. Sometimes you can just plug and unplug the quad 3 times, but it's arguably easier just to hook it up to Betaflight, come into the receiver tab, and just click the bind receiver button. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes the 3 plugs thing doesn't even work. There we go. Now we're bound. That was weird. Could have sworn that I was flying this. Refresh and save, and there we go. All better. Anything weird in the PID tune? Nah. Alright, throw the battery back through it, and away we shall go. Oh, I know why this is heavier. The battery lead is a little bit longer. I set the battery lead up a little bit different. The battery lead wires on a tiny whoop are actually a big chunk of the weight, and shortening them up really does save tenths of a gram. So this rig is like more accurate, sort of, but it doesn't give me the same throw when I'm off throttle. That is what makes it more accurate, though, weirdly. This is why pretty much all the racers run tri-blades. Whoa. So flying this is a shockingly different experience. It's hard to kind of put into words other than that when you come off the throttle, it doesn't travel as far, and when you're cornering, it just sort of has more grip. When there's airflow coming over this thing from different directions, the extra blades, right, 4 extra blades between all 4 props, wow. So that's kind of an example there. I expected it to slide a little bit more, and it didn't. I'm much more used to flying the bi-blade rigs. Look at that wobble. PID tune sucks on this thing. These rigs that I have on 4.5, the PID, I can't get the tunes as good. I have to assume it's placebo, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It's super weird. Or it could just be like beat up parts, like all the builds that I have on 4.5 have more banged up motors. Could be any number of things. I tried to... Uh-oh. 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 Teddy's stupid little head pokes up. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Maggie the best, as always. Oh! I'm gonna get stuck again. Ready? Oh, Teddy! Where is he? There he is. Oh! Mommy's yelling at him, I think. He doesn't know what to do. Ah! She threw a toy! Oh, I love it! Ain't no toy better than this one, Teddy says. This one moves and shit. I can hear his growl from all the way down here. Yes! Teddy Spaghetti! We call him that because he has worms. No, we don't. He does have worms, though. No, he doesn't. This battery's done. Yeah, keep flying it, idiot. Hurt the battery, you dummy. There we go. Oh, I might not be able to get the tune as aggressive because this is on the light AF frame. That might be it. But I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it on that frame. The tune's not bad. It's just not, like, absolutely, completely perfect in every single way. Like, I assume that they will all be. Man, we spent... I mean, the troubleshoot that we did covered an awful lot of bases. So, like, I'm not that upset that we didn't cover more ground here. But I wanted to troubleshoot more than just one rig. Let me quickly see if I can troubleshoot this guy. I think this might be having the same exact problem. Let's take a look super quick. I remember I plugged this in a bunch of streams ago, and it wouldn't take off. And I wasn't in the mood, and I put it aside. And so let's see. Yeah, okay. Motor number 4, not spinning at all. So let's follow that same methodology. Spin this motor around. Compare it to the one next to it. It actually feels like it might have a little bit more resistance. Next thing we want to do is take a look. First of all, we want to unplug the damn thing. Let's take a look at the interaction between the C-clip and the frame. It looks awful close. That looks really close. Let's just dive right in and take the motor off, grab the 9/64 drill bit, run it around, pop the motor back on, and let's just see if that... This was a working rig, and then for no real reason, it wasn't. When you wallow these holes out, take the screws out of there. All right. I should just buy a 9/64 drill bit and just leave it here at the desk. Teddy's here right next to me, saying hello, hoping that he can eat some more tiny whoops. I'm just gonna go grab that drill bit, and then I can kind of show you guys how I just like angle it. You'll see. And he's galloping with me. Little dog, I love you. All right. Anybody notice that I changed the colors of the Weebleed gates? You didn't notice, you liar. 9/64 drill bit. Run it through by hand, and then just make an angle, like run it through straight, but then make an angle and go around with it. What that'll do is it'll knock some of the extra little bits of plastic off, and it also does, it just takes a little bit more material off. I also like to run it all the way down here because this part doesn't have any stuff going on, and so it kind of like, I don't know, stretches the plastic out a little bit. But yeah, that's all you're doing. And you'll feel it. You'll feel it remove the material, and it'll get a lot easier to spin. But then you want to take a look with your 5X loop, and you're probably going to have a couple little pieces of plastic in there. In this case, I don't, though. That looks super, super, super clean. So let's slap this motor back on and see. Also, you want to look at the top of it, where the stator base bolts to make sure there's not a bunch of plastic that's pushed up that's going to then get smushed in between the motor and the frame. And in this case, I actually do have a little piece of plastic there that's sitting up, because then there's a chance that when you bolt the motor down, that piece of plastic will get pushed into the center where the C-clip is. And so there we go. I just got it. All right. All right. Let's get this thrown back on here. For the record, I did let Newbie Drone know about this. Unfortunately, like, the mold is made. But if they do another mold for another frame like this, they will make the motor holes a little bit bigger. They sized the motor holes for their motors. You know, this is something that, like, it's nobody's fault. Happy Model just happens to use a bigger C-clip than most on their motors. I actually prefer that because it makes the C-clips a lot... I mean, I don't know if you can remove like the Newbie Drone motors, some of the other motors, like the BetaFPV motors, I think they are. I don't know if you can even get those C-clips off of there because they're like recessed down in. And And so, yeah, like I actually prefer the way that Happy Model does their giant C-clip, because it allows us to do cool things like swap bells and replace bells. Trying very hard not to just crank these motor screws down and cause the problem again. And now let me take another look. Where did that piece of plastic come from? If all of this upsets you, this is a DIY hobby, yo. This is the least of our problems right here. This is the easiest thing to fix. And again, Newbie Drone motors work totally fine on the Newbie Drone frames. It's not any one manufacturer's responsibility to buy every single motor that exists and make sure that it's compatible with every single thing. Would I like for them to do that? Of course. But, you know, probably never going to happen. And we've seen this time and time again, and we will continue to see this. This will not be the last time that when you mix and match one manufacturer's parts with another, they don't jive quite right. This is something that used to happen in motorsports all the time. So it is not just us. I'm being like insane about this right now. But is that plastic? What is that? But better to be insane and have something that works than be not insane. And again, it feels totally fine, but I'm just double checking. All right, so it was this purple motor number 4. Let's see. Nope. Well, now motor 3 won't spin either. I'm getting nothing from motor 4. It doesn't even look like it's trying. Motor 4 ain't even trying. What's happening there here, friend? Feels like it's spinning up just fine. When you put your finger on the motor, you should be able to at least feel it trying. But I'm getting nothing, which leads me to believe that it's a wiring problem, because even when a FET blows, it'll at least try. So that makes me feel like wow, that's super weird. It was trying a minute ago. So I'm going to pull very lightly on each individual motor wire. They're fine. Apparently they're not fine because that fixed it. It worked for a second. So this is a bad solder joint between one of these wires and the PCB on the motor base. It has to be, because I did this and all of a sudden it came back to life. We would have, if we had swapped 2 motors, we would have noticed that. Could it be the wire leads at the connector? I'm gonna move the connector around while I'm giving it power. Nope. That was super weird. It fired up just for like 1 split second and then stopped. There it goes again. Yeah, it's very obviously. So again, if we'd swapped 2 of these motors, it would have chased. The problem would have moved from here to there, right? And that would have told us that the motor is the problem. So there's something going on with this motor here. I'm pretty sure it is a wire that's letting go right up in here. So I need to put a new lead on this motor, which is not that bad. Not too hard to do. So I'm going to remove this motor and take a super quick look. And then we're done. And then we're done. And then we're done. I gotta go, my friends. I gotta go. But hey, shit, we covered a bunch of ground. I'm really glad this happened because this is the other side of motor troubleshoots. So I pulled a little bit of shrink wrap. Yep, I can see it. No, maybe not. Huh, no. The solder joints look totally fine. So what that means is that it could be an internal motor problem, or it could be a problem with the plug here. A problem at the plug. So at this point, you get to choose. Either just replace the motor, which is the easiest thing to do, or start the troubleshoot. Switch the connector out. Switch the set of motor leads out, etc., etc., etc. This middle wire? What I'm looking at is the individual strands of wire right up next to the motor. Right up next to the solder pads, rather. And what I'm actually doing is I'm pulling back the silicone a little bit. I'm really hoping to see that one of these just has like one single strand left, but they're actually all fine. Yeah, I mean, it could be a problem with the windings inside the motor. I would, if I desolder this lead and connector and put a new one on, and it's still having problems, it's an internal issue in the windings. So some of the winding material broke or something like that. So yeah, that's the troubleshoot that needs to happen on this, is that I mean, I have extras of these motor to wire to motor jibbo jabbos. So I'm just going to throw this one away. I'm just going to get rid of this connector and motor lead here and swap it all the way out with an extra one that I have. And then if that doesn't fix the problem, it's technically the stator at that point. So at that point, I could pull the bell off and save the bell, and the stator is the issue. But I don't know if I'll do that. I'm pretty stingy with this stuff. But yeah, new plug and lead are destined for this little jib jab. I actually have one right here. You know what? Watch this. See how quick I can do this. Ready? Here we go. All right. I'm going to put a little bit of fresh solder on these pads. Just a little bit. Just Get them all nice and shiny. This is an old set of motors. These are 28,500s. I'm going to take the little piece of shrink wrap off here that actually does a really good job at protecting the joint where these wires meet up with the PCB on the motors. This is kind of important. This silly little piece of shrink wrap is totally worth maintaining, moving between motors. That little thing. And then we're going to go, what is it? That part upwards. So I'm going to put it on like this. God only knows if this motor is going to spin in the right direction, but let's just see super quick. 50-50 shot. Let me pick up a little bit of fresh solder on the tip of the iron. And here we go. Woo! Nah. Is that flat on there? Yeah, it is. All right, there's one. Let's see if I can do these all by hand. There's two. That one looks pretty good. Nah, third one I can't get over there. I gotta use the tweezers. Let's get it. Come on, get in there. There we go. Fuck. Motor keeps wanting to spin. Let me see if I can grab the back of the stator with another Omni Fixo here. Let's go like that. No, it's pulling on it too hard. I want this facing downwards. Can I grab it like that? Nope, don't want that. Well, that might hold for a second. Yeah, there we go. Woo! Not the easiest things to solder, but they're also not the hardest. All right, there we go. That should work. And then you're going to just move this shrink wrap back down to protect these solder joints. Always check your work. Yeah, looks all right. All right, cool. And then this, you're going to slide it back down. It goes partially over the little PCB at the base of the motor, and then it covers the solder joints themselves. What I find though is that it's hard to get it back on there. So what you can do is take your really sharp tipped needle nose pliers, put them on here, and just stretch it out a little bit. Just give it a little stretchy. And now it'll go back on there a lot easier. And then you could just use a lighter to shrink it back up. You can shrink and stretch and shrink and stretch shrink wrap a bunch of times. It's fairly... I don't know. Pretend I said a word that makes sense. It's re-shrinkable. There you go. Trying to be careful not to melt the propeller. And there we go. I'll bet you that fixed the problem. Let's see real fast. Where'd it go? Here it is. All right. Put it back in here. Come on. I don't know if I ever remember having an issue where the stator itself failed on tiny whoops. I've certainly had that issue on bigger quads, but it's usually like the bearings let go or the windings get hit by the bottom of the bell and it cuts one of the windings. All right, let's see. I bet you this motor's spinning the wrong direction. It is literally a 50-50 shot, though. Plug. And plug. Not quite quick enough. Come on, ELRS. There it is. Nope. Still won't go. So it's the stator that has died. Well, hold on. It's trying. Now it's not trying. Nope, now it's trying. This is acting weird. It almost feels like the motor might actually be binding up now. Did I screw these motor screws in too tight? Yeah, I might have. Alright, so look. I got it spinning. And now it won't spin. Is it trying? It is trying. I think the motor might be bound up on the frame. I think I cranked these screws down too tight. Whoo, boy, troubleshooting these can be a real pain. Look, if you're frustrated troubleshooting one of these, welcome to the club. They can be very, very annoying to troubleshoot sometimes. But when you get them right, they're usually good to go for a while. What happened to you? What happened? No, I don't think it's binding up. Weird, dude. Weird. What's making you angry? Why so angry? The whole thing with like putting your finger on it to see if, even though it's not spinning, when you give it so I went into turtle mode and I was pushing up left to trigger motor 4. The fact that I could feel it trying is what led me down the road of, oh, the motor's bound up. That's how I knew that there was an electrical connection there, right? So that's an important little part of the troubleshoot that you can do. Let's try this one more time. Still feels like it's maybe binding up a little bit. It's still not spinning. What's interesting is if I give it turtle mode on the controller, and then I nudge the propeller, it goes. But you hear that difference? It's spinning a lot slower than the rest. So it could... Oh, now it's got nothing again. Yeah, so it's either bound up or... I mean, the AIO is fine. How could it still be bound up? I just clearanced it. The other way that you can tell if they're really bound up is that when you spin the motor, the C-clip will stay. Dirty motor, could be. Usually a dirty motor, though, when you spin it up to full stank like that, it'll clear itself out. So yeah, something's going on. But it's absolutely the motor. And now we know it's not the connector, it's not the wires, it's the motor itself, right? We're narrowing it down, narrowing it down, narrowing it down. And so, yeah, it's something between the stator and the bell. And it's almost certainly not the bell. Could be, but almost certainly not. There you go, friends. That's how you troubleshoot this shit. Love you, bye. Thanks for hanging. CiottiFPV.com. Support me. I'll keep doing this. We'll keep breaking shit together. Here's 2S Walksnail 75mm rig outside the front house before Thanksgiving. Or Halloween, either or. Maybe I'll see you guys Sunday, maybe not. I'll let you know via Discord and YouTube and Patreon. Check your Patreon, make sure they didn't kick you off. Donkeys. Love you, bye.